Hello and welcome to the Built on Air podcast. Built on Air is a regular podcast where we talk with everyday people and learn about the amazing things they are doing with Airtable. Today's podcast is sponsored by OpenSide, the leading solutions provider for Airtable customers. Check out openside.com to learn more about their products and services that can take your Airtable usage to the next level. Use promo code BuiltOnAir to receive $20 towards any product purchase.
In this episode, we talked to Jennifer Selke, Director of Veteran Programs and Campus Outcomes at Camp Southern Ground, an incredible nonprofit which operates as both a summer camp for kids and a year-round resource center for veterans. Among others, Jennifer directs the Warrior PATHH program, which assists combat veterans in the transition to civilian life through supportive, mental health-focused approach. In the wake of the lockdowns as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, Camp Southern Ground has had to improvise a way to digitally provide veterans access to all the resources which are available to them. In comes Airtable. Jennifer was able to put together a simple one-table base to curate a list of over 100 resources for military veterans. While we discuss how it isn't a perfect substitute for in-person support, it's a clear example of how a tool like Airtable can let newbies distribute information in a visually appealing format in next to no time at all.
Okay, so how I started was I just started to collect, and you can sort of see in here, I started to collect different websites or mobile apps or different, pieces. And so the website really starts with putting the website in here. And then from there, and you can kind of even, the stuff I haven't published, when I find something new that I need to sort of vet, it goes in at the bottom right now. So I have a couple things that I'm sort of looking on. So it really starts for me with the website. And then from there, I will go through and then look at the site and kind of determine, what does the site do, and kind of grab a description. And this is where you start, some great websites have awesome statements that I can just copy and paste. And others I'm like writing them myself because maybe they haven't done that, but it's still a great site. And then I have sort of a name of a resource here. And then originally I started with a site image. I started to just sort of screenshot something on their website. And what the problem was, figured out that it doesn't always fit in the exact dimensions of the square. So you can start to see, they are starting to look the same across. Like you start to notice it's not like this one's clearly a screen grab. Whereas some I've started to like, actually this one, like I had to type the text and do that myself. And so I use Canva and just like trial and error to get the size just right. And then what I'll do is I'll look for the logo, I'll look and I'll just put some text. So you can start to see some of them, they look like, they all start to look this similar. So I might see this great site and then they don't have like this one's a document and it might be a great document, but there's no good icon for it. So then I have to, make it myself. And Canva's also helped, even if I do grab a screenshot so you can see the logo or the color scheme for that particular area, it's so much easier in Canva to make sure it's consistent in the size. Cause there's little things that just make me crazy when like the things look slightly askew or, I just can't cope. So
once stuff is cut off.
Right. And once I started to do a few of them so that the sizing was good, I had to go back and do most of that. Like I just started going back and doing them so they all fit and look the same. And then what I did was, you have a resource name. And then I started to realize like it would be helpful to have a type of like, is this a phone number in there? Is this a website? Is it a mobile app? Like what is that? So you can sort of sort by type in the description and then the actual website. And then I have had people on my team, other veterans kind of going through, we don't have the why we like it filled out as many, but they've been going through to kind of fill out like, what do we like about it? And I might do that. And then we have here in the area, it goes through like what particular area it might be covering. And so, you can see over here in my, I don't even know what this section is called, but you can see all the different views. I've sorted by the different areas so that you can have a view in a particular area. In that, and then cost, if we do come up with ones that do have a cost then we'll put that in there. But, you know, like I said, we started with things that had no cost. So
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of the overview of it. And, you know, my main goal was that I wanted to be able to have people click on something and then sort of see it like this, where they could sort of look and see the different things and see the description. So this was like a lot of, again, back to my, like, you know, I watched a couple videos online to kind of get a sense of like, what is this? You know, things, whenever you're learning like a new platform, you just have to sort of convert in your brain, like, okay, that's what it's called in there. So I watched a number of different tutorials on YouTube to try to get a sense of like, okay, what am I dealing with some basic understanding so that I could kind of jump in. And then there was a lot of just like trial and error, like, why is this icon not showing up big instead of showing up small? Like little, you know, you start to figure out all these settings that I'm sure a lot of people listening are like, that's what that setting is called. And I was doing a lot of like trial and error. So it's really something that, you know, you can jump into. And if you have some just knowledge, you know, I don't have a database background. I don't have, you know, my knowledge of Google Sheets and things like that is really sort of trial and error. And once you kind of just have some understanding of there's got to be a setting for that, you know, then you can start Googling and looking. And I joined the Facebook group, the Airtable Facebook group. And, you know, sometimes you need that like one nugget of like, this is what it's called, that like breaks open your whole world.
Right. Well, I'm glad that you were able to find something that met all of your needs. And so part of the benefit of a tool like Airtable is that, you know, you're able to get it to look in this nice kind of clean card view layout, but you can also share a view and make it searchable. So you've set up a type field where you could set up filters and say, okay, only show me websites right now, or only show me phone lines. And so, yeah, the benefit of Airtable's sort of setup is that it's friendly enough to newcomers that they can get in and play around with it without feeling too overwhelmed. Like some platforms can feel at times.
Yes. I think that was really, to me, a hallmark was that I was able to, with really limited knowledge, that I was able to kind of figure this out. It was just kind of a, you know, testimony, I think, to the usability of Airtable. You know, some of these platforms may do a lot, but they're not user friendly.
Mm-hmm. It kind of, it feels almost like sometimes it would behoove you to pay someone else to build your end product for you. And for things like nonprofits, that's not always feasible. So it's great to have something that you can play around with and make yourself. And, you know, maybe further down the line, you might need something more advanced and you might move away to a different platform. But like you were saying, this was sort of you had to get something and you had to get something quick because no one really knew way in advance that you wouldn't be able to run all of these programs. And so it's not always feasible to go with the most bells and whistles type platform.
Yeah. And what's been great is, even for myself, you know, my intention was that this is something veterans could find, but honestly, it's something that, you know, when a veteran needs something, I know where I have a better way to categorize things that I can find them. You know, you can sometimes lose, you know, back in the day, you know, it's Pinboard, Delicious, there's Evernote, like there's so many ways that we're collecting even just resources online. And that's not always easy for other people to see, but like, this is something now, because I've been through them all, like I know where they are, I can find them for people. So I feel like I use it sometimes as much as, you know, I think a veteran might use it.
Some happens to me as well, because it's just, again, the filters and searching are useful for me. Sometimes in Excel, trying to find something is, you know, not exactly easy. So I could totally see why this would work as like almost an internal resource, just as well as something that you would share with your participants. So in addition to having this available for you and your team, you've also put it on the Airtable universe.
Yes. And that was another, like, that was the second part of like, how do I make this visible to other people without overwhelming them with like a back end of something. And so that's where, when I found and discovered like, oh, I could put something on this too, like then it sort of all clicked for me of like how this can be, sort of a destination on the internet for our veterans to come to look things up and try to find something specifically that they need. So I also, was able to include information about our programs, because that's a big part of what we're doing is recruiting veterans. Since we're still a newer program, getting the word out that this is something that's no cost, that can really help veterans transitioning or help veterans, combat veterans with post-traumatic stress, like that. This was, it was important that I could at least put some things down where people, if they found it, knew where they could, access us or access some more support, as well as then click in and kind of explore the base and see what it was they needed. So, that was a big part for me, was just learning how to like, how do I, get the fonts a little bit bigger, some of the basic stuff that you're doing when you put something out in the universe. Like, how do I make sure it looks clean and has information? Maybe it can be, found in search, and then it has, when they see it has all this great other resources that it can kind of serve two purposes and just help us with our branding, and help veterans see like we're a place that can help.
So has this more or less launched yet? Have you begun to use this in practice now that it's set up?
Yeah, I mean, we send it out. We have a Facebook group that's for all veterans that are just trying to see who we are. That's open to everybody. And so, I put resources out on there, which is helpful because I can kind of look for something and put out a resource and then say, here's the list. Even in our program, just this weekend, I was showing the veterans on the screen, like, this is what this looks like. This is how you can use it, and sometimes they, not all, veterans are like they're the same range that we have in the United States population. There are going to be people that are database managers and like they get this right away. And there's others that are like barely operating their phone, just like in society. And so, for some, they need to see a little bit like, what am I supposed to do with this? Explore the space. Like, what does that mean? And so we're really just showing them, just provided so much extra for that.
Would you say, because your campus is based in Georgia, and you've now produced this base that has all of these resources in it, I would imagine, because some of them are websites, they're not necessarily geographically limited. So would you say that making something like this has broadened the amount or the range of veterans you've been able to help, or you maybe will be able to help using this?
Yeah, well, I think what's really neat about the veteran community is that they are always looking out for each other. And so this idea that they're going to take a look at this, for some veterans, they're using this to help people in their community. So that it gives them, there are certain groups in the veteran population. There's some individuals that just feel called to like help other veterans. And so this is a great tool for them to help even their own community. So sometimes veterans, when you're under in this, the goal of these resources is to provide sort of resources around well-being, everything from, recreation. You can see our things that are around activities and recreation, which is a big part of the veteran community. There's a lot of opportunities for veterans to kind of socialize and have recreation opportunities. There's over 50,000 veteran serving organizations, VSOs. So there's a lot out there for people. So all of these resources are not all just veteran resources. And so the idea is that some are going to be specific to veterans and some are going to be these are open to anybody. Sure. And so this idea that a veteran that is kind of serving their community could come in and find a referral for somebody, that's another great resource, is that sometimes the person that's out there helping needs to look something up and find something, or let us know like, hey, I just went to this program and it's great. You should add it to your database. Cause not every program is great for every person. And I think that's where veterans can really struggle, is finding the right fit for what they need. And so when you have someone that's in your network refer maybe a site or refer something to you, it sort of has that concierge feel, like they know me, they know what I'm dealing with right now, and they found this particular resource and they think that would help. That can be a really big support, instead of like an overwhelmed veteran ending up on this site and like, what am I supposed to be looking for?
Right.
So there's so many different uses. And like I said, I would say probably 80% of the resources on here are for anybody, which is great.
So, how many resources would you estimate are in the base right now?
I don't know. We could look. I think I know how to figure that out. It would be the number at the bottom of the list. Let's see. Well, I have a few that haven't been vetted yet. So 115 right now.
All right.
Yeah.
So that's a lot.
And it's, a lot of like getting the little graphic, it was just a lot of like, I wanted to look right. I think that took a lot of time as well, of like getting, I fussed a lot with the icons.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, you've done a great job of it, and it sort of points to obviously having the filtered gallery views are useful, so that you can just focus on one category at a time if that's what you're going in there looking for. But also, looking at 100 some odd cards at once, that might get unwieldy. And so the ability to make so many different views, both in the base view, which we're looking at now, and in the Airtable universe view, that's got to make finding things a little bit easier too.
Yeah, I think it was a game changer once I figured out that I could like sort them into these different categories without the individual having, like, I was like, how am I going to teach people how to sort by what area? And once I figured out like I could do these views, that was a game changer for me.
Mm-hmm. So do other people in your organization go into this base and add things, or does everything go through you?
Primarily I'm usually the one that finds resources, but sometimes if they send me something, then I'll add it. What they've been doing is going through and trying to add in what we like about it. Mm-hmm. So that I have sort of a veteran perspective of like what was great about this site. Yeah. Sometimes you see it and you're like, well, that's great, but why is this site important? And so we've been going through slowly and trying to fill this in, mm-hmm. Of what that means.
Well, I imagine that's got to take time, because
it's time consuming.
Right. You have to try out each of these things, I would imagine, to come up why you would like it. So, yeah, very commendable what you're doing.
It is overwhelming. Yeah, I mean, the thing that was really motivating was Airtable was just complex enough to be able to do what I needed it to do, but it was user friendly, and that I was able to learn it, over, a few weeks time of figuring that out. And that just kept me motivated. I mean, there would be times like if I couldn't figure something out, like there's been other sites or other things that I've tried to work on that, got too complicated and I'm out, or I don't pick it up, or you kind of like put it down and don't pick it up again. And when you're doing this type of work, like that's the worst, because you're like, what was I doing? I don't remember this. Whereas, Airtable was like, it was just at the level, in the zone of like development that I needed. But that I felt like the interface was clean and I could find what I needed. And there was just so much support online that really helped.
Yeah. It means the world when something doesn't feel as daunting. Yes. It might, at the end of the day, it might be just as challenging, but if it doesn't look like, if the hill doesn't look that steep, you're going to want to walk up it more than like a sheer cliff face.
Yes.
Well, thank you so much for showing us your base and talking about the camp and the veteran programs that you guys put on. They're incredibly important services that you do for society. And I once again, just thank you.
Thank you for allowing me to share it with everybody. I know a lot of people, back in after World War II, everybody knew a veteran. And nowadays, very few people have veterans in their lives. And so to be able to kind of talk about this for those that may be connected to veterans, helps them spread the word and sort of resources and programs that may be useful to veterans in their life.
Mm-hmm. Well, we'll definitely put all of the links that we've discussed in the description of the video so that people can find it and we could spread the word a little bit more and, shine a even bigger light on what it is you guys do.
Thank you.
It's what we do.
And I know there's probably like our expert Airtable people are like, why didn't you do that way? Why don't you try this? This would work. I am more than happy to entertain any suggestions people have. This is like my, trial run, and the community has been so supportive in helping me get this started. So if people are like, I got an idea, send them my way.
Well, I just might. It's not strictly Airtable. It involves some kind of like mild integrations. You said you like learning, so
yeah, I do.
If you want a little bit of a challenge, I might throw an idea your way to.
I do.
Create a little bit more of a portal, if you will, so that it just one step easier for
sure.
your end user, your veteran, to find exactly what they want to look for. So
yeah, that would be great.
I might be sending you an idea.
Awesome.
Great. Well, thank you so much for being on the podcast. I'll talk to you later.
Thank you. Talk to you later.
Great. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the episode, be sure to give it a like or hit us up on social at BuiltOnAir. We always love to hear your comments and suggestions. And don't forget to subscribe to catch new episodes when they release. It helps us keep the podcast going.